Okay, Kurt Curtis back at you. And what we're doing now is we're going to tackle replacing the rear bearing in the C4 Corvette. First thing we're going to have to do is get the brake caliper off. I'm also, while I've got it apart, I'm going to refurb the aluminum. I'm going to blast it. I'm going to reuse these calipers. I'm going to probably rebuild them, or maybe I'll get new ones. I don't know for sure. So I'm going to try to take care of them. This has a lot of anti-lock brake wires, which we are not going to need, so we're going to remove a bunch of those. And the calipers are on there a little bit, so they're going to be put off to the side. And we're going to tackle this end. And there's a cotter pin that needs to come out. So we're going to work on removing this cotter pin. And we're going to put our safety glasses on. Actually, it's our reading glasses because we're getting old. Perfect. Now, I needed a special socket, so I went on to Amazon.com and got a 36mm socket that goes onto this. And I'm going to have to wedge something in here so that I can pressure this thing out. So let me get a big bar. We're going to see how this works. We're going to use an air impact. I put a little penetrating oil on the nut. Now let's see if this will work a little bit better. Usually when it's on a car, it's a little easier. Whoa, that came off easy. That is awesome. So this is actually, I believe, the replacement part. I've got to go open the box and see what I've got, but this should be the bearing assembly. This comes out from the inside. This is actually a gear that is or a sensor that's used for anti-lock brake speed. Really doesn't matter to us because we won't be using that. Now the next task is going to be, we're going to put some oil on these bolts because this is how we're going to remove the inner bearing. And I want them to come out a little easy if we can. And there was yet another tool that I didn't have that I had to buy. If you look at the inside of this, you'll notice these three star head bolts. Basically a Torx, I believe it's a T55. Again, Amazon.com, parts will be in the list. So we're going to stick that in there with the air impact. We're going to see if we can knock these out. This one off. Put the T55 on. And we're going to see how it goes. Hopefully I don't break any of these off. Oh, that's nice. You want to save these bolts because I believe you're going to have to reuse them. Now, I believe that this comes loose from your inner housing. Again, we're going to remove all these anti-lock brake sensors. And this is going to go in the bead blast cabinet because it's going to get all prettied up and a nice coat of clear coat on it. And magic happens. So we're going to save these bolts. To mess with. And let's see if we can get this off now. Perfect. So these parts are basically your bearing assembly, and when you buy a replacement it comes as one complete unit, and these pieces are pretty much throwaway. So we'll find a way to maybe make some garage art out of them, and we'll come back after we clean everything up and show you what it looks like to reassemble all of this stuff. Alright, we're back to the rear of the C4 Corvette suspension, and as you can see, we have bead blasted all the components. We've made them look nice. We've clear coated them after we glass beaded them. So we put them in a blast cabinet. We used, I believe it's 80 grit glass bead. Cleaned all the aluminum components up, and then we went through and put a light coat of clear coat lacquer on this. It dries very fast. It looks really nice, and it protects the grease from embedding back into the aluminum and dirt. So it should stay a lot nicer looking for a bit longer. As you can see, we have new wheel bearing assemblies, and we selected the Moog, M-O-O-G, Moog. They're a very high quality. They're not the cheapest on the block. They're probably twice as expensive as the cheapest out there, but we did find that we feel that the quality is a little bit better with the Moog. You're buying a trusted name with them. So we took the chance and paid a little bit extra money because we're going to drive this car pretty hard and we want it to hold up for us. So now what we're going to do is, you notice that these have 3 bolts that go in from the back side. It also has a splined drive axle, and we'll show you a little bit about putting that drive axle in also. So what we're going to do is, the easiest thing to do is to go ahead and slide in the bolts. It's much easier to align once the bolts are in. Once you have the bolts in, it can go in any direction as long as the 3 holes line up to a bolt. And you start the threads up. Once all 3 threads have started, you can slide the bearing all the way in. Also remember, do not forget to put your, this particular piece is your disc brake mounting plate, and it does come off, and it did come off so we could clean it and paint it. Please don't forget to put that back on, otherwise you're going to be pulling this stuff all apart again. The other thing that I didn't mention is, for illustration purposes, we're going to go ahead and snug this up, but what we will do is come back and we'll pull the bolts out, put a little bit of blue Loctite on them, slide them back in, and these 3 bolts will torque to 66 pounds, 66 foot-pounds. We'll go ahead and spin these in and make it, at least get it snugged in here. And what these do is, it's actually a Torx T55. So make sure that you have a good high quality Torx T55 so that you can actually apply 66 pounds of torque down on this thing. And then that's going to bring you nice and solid in here. The next thing we're going to talk about is actually the drive axle. So the U-joint here, this is where your U-joint for your half shaft will connect to this. And what happens is the U-joint will connect to the half shaft. The half shaft will slide through with these splines, and it will drive your hub. So this is going to come in from the back side. You're going to feel where it goes. You're going to, it's going to have a little bit of a snug fit. And then there's a nut and a castle lock, and also a cotter pin that goes in this. This is going to be the fun one to torque down. This one here torques down to 166 pounds, 166 foot-pounds. If you torque it any less, what happens is these wear inside and they become loose, because you can tell there's a lot of stress, back and forth, brake, go, you know, gearing down. So make sure you torque this correctly. You're probably going to have to protect your threads. I would suggest putting your lug nuts on it, sticking a big pry bar through here in some fashion to support the turning. And it's going to have to be a long one. You're going to get a long torque wrench. A long torque wrench is it's going to handle 175 pounds plus, and you're going to torque this thing to at least 166 pounds. I've also heard people torquing them to 175. And then you're going to put your little castle lock on it. Let me walk over here and grab one of those. So what you're going to see here is you're going to see the castle lock. You're going to see the big nut that goes on, and also a very large washer. So the washer goes on, the nut, and then this locking mechanism has the ability to go over in a couple of different ways so that you can get a cotter pin through it so that this thing will not spin off and you won't lose a wheel. So again, the washer is going to go in first. It's going to have a snug fit. I highly recommend greasing all this stuff before you put it in. It'll make it a whole lot easier in the future if you ever have to take it apart, and it'll also prevent this flash rusting from occurring. So we'll go ahead and throw the nut on here. And when this thing is actually all the way in, there is a hole in the shaft, and this castle nut, lock nut, will go on so that you can run a cotter pin through it, bend it over so that it'll protect that thing from coming out. That's all there is to putting a new bearing in the back of your C4 Corvette. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to put your rotors back on, and then bolt your calipers up with your brake assemblies, and you will be back in business. So we hope you enjoyed this informative video on how to replenish and replace and refurbish your C4 Corvette rear end, rear suspension, rear bearings. So again, thanks for being with us. If you liked our video, give us a thumbs up, tell your friends about it, and feel free to leave some positive or negative comments to us to give us some feedback of what you think of these videos and what kind of things you might want to see in the future. So again, thanks for being with us. Kurt Curtis, Full Octane Garage out.